This documentary will look at some of the most bizarre and strange places around the world. These anomalies will keep scientists searching for answers, and the rest of us astounded by the secrets and mysteries the world continues to reveal. Although science can explain almost everything that happens on this planet, that doesn't mean there isn't room for a little mystery as well. Neil Armstrong once rightly observed, "Mystery creates wonder, and wonder is the basis of man's desire to understand." Number 1. Mount Shasta. Mount Shasta volcano, located at the southern end of the Cascade Range in Siskiyou County, California, stands at 14,179 feet. It's the second highest peak in the Cascades and the fifth highest in California. Mount Shasta is one of those places, an ancient, sacred mountain pilgrimage destination whose mysteries still call out to us from the past. The mountain is legendary for containing all kinds of local folklore about underground tunnels and hollow earth type theories. Natives have always considered this mountain as a sacred place, and in recent decades it's been connected to a mystical power that emanates peace and harmony. Given the increasing number of sightings that have been reported in the area in the last decade, some believe that Mount Shasta is closely related to mysterious flying objects, and some have ventured as far as to say there are secret underground bases located inside this magical mountain. The Hopi Indians have legends about a vast network of caves and a great city under Mount Shasta, where the reptilian race lives. Many people living around Mount Shasta have told stories about very tall humanoids occasionally appearing in smaller towns. Some people in Mount Shasta believe that a lost continent called Lemuria is hidden beneath the mountain, along with its crystalline capital city, Telos, where they recreated their once great society and purportedly continue to live to this day. In 1904, J.C. Brown made what he thought was the most exciting archaeological find of the century, when he discovered a lost city below the mountain. Later, based on Brown's account, an expedition led by John C. Root and comprised of 80 members was brought together to explore further the tunnel based on these claims. However, on June 19, 1934, the day the exploration was due to set out, California, J.C. Brown did not show up, and in fact, he was never seen again. Writer and explorer Dr. Doriel, who was invited to visit Mount Shasta in 1931 and claimed to have penetrated the mountain lair of the Lemurians, he saw what he described as an enormous cavern that was an astounding 20 miles long, 15 miles wide, and 2 miles high. In the June 27, 1940 edition of the Mount Shasta Herald, William Bridge Cook wrote of a Professor Edward L. Larkin of the Mount Lowe Observatory, who claimed to have observed the mystical city at great length through his telescope on several occasions. The list of all the stories of people who've claimed to be taken into the underground chambers and caverns beneath Mount Shasta would fill a lot of books, and extends well back into the late 1800s up until present day. The Paiute Indians of the southwest USA claim that a Greek or Egyptian-like race first colonized the massive caverns within the Panamint Mountains, thousands of years ago when Death Valley was part of an inland sea connected to the Pacific Ocean. Some tribes have admitted that the locations and entrances of these tunnels are a closely guarded secret, which has never been shared with the outside world. The region surrounding Mount Shasta contains thousands of caves. You must wonder what secrets they may harbor, as the vast majority have still never been explored. Number 2. The Bermuda Triangle. You might think that the barren waters of the Bermuda Triangle are just boring sea, vast, turbulent, and seldom viewed by man. Quite the contrary. The heart of the triangle is covered by the strangest and most notorious sea on the planet, the Sargasso Sea, so named because there's a kind of seaweed which lazily floats over the entire expanse called sargassum. Catching sight of these enormous mats of seaweed has always marked the perimeter of this peculiar sea. Columbus himself made note of it. The Sargasso Sea occupies that part of the Atlantic between 20 degrees to 35 degrees north latitude and 30 degrees to 70 degrees west longitude. It's in complete contrast to the ocean around it. Its currents are largely immobile, yet surrounded by some of the strongest currents in the world: the Florida, Gulf Stream, Canary, North Equatorial, Antilles, and Caribbean currents. Legends of a sea of lost ships predates the Bermuda Triangle by centuries, and was in many ways strikingly like the mythos of the modern Bermuda Triangle. Derelict vessels were found here more often, shipshape but deserted. On one occasion, a slaver was sighted with nothing but skeletons aboard. The Rosa Lee sailed through this area in 1840 before later turning up derelict, as reported in the London Times. In 1881, the schooner Ellen Austin supposedly found a derelict vessel and, placing a prize crew aboard, sailed in tandem for the port. 2 days later, the ship was sighted sailing erratically. When boarded again, the ship was once again deserted. There was no trace of the crew. The bark James B. Chester was found deserted in the Sargasso Sea in 1857, with chairs kicked over and a stale meal on the mess table. Modern derelicts have included the Connemara IV, found drifting 140 miles from Bermuda in 1955, plus several yachts and sailboats found in 1969 and 1982. An evaluation of ship and aircraft disappearances draws a striking connection with the modern Bermuda Triangle. The northern border of the Sargasso Sea more correctly represents the northern limits of the area of disappearances. For many aircraft and ships were in this vicinity when they vanished. In other words, a few hundred miles north of Bermuda, but just entering the Sargasso Sea. The SS Poet, 520 feet, bound for Gibraltar in 1980, an SAC B-52 on maneuvers in 1961, KB-50 aerial tanker in 1962, a Super Connie in 1954, a Navy Martin Marlin amphibian in 1956 are but a few examples. The Seaweed Sea has a centuries-old rep for mysterious disappearances. The sea of lost ships has not been solved in modern times. It's only expanded to the skies above. And the mystery of missing aircraft seems even greater since neither comms nor sargassum can affect them. If the sargassum and the stagnant comms cannot affect modern travel, and yet aircraft and ships disappear alike, then the mystery is not one of the seas, but of the planet itself. Its shape, mass, and the area's juxtaposition on this very mysterious sphere we live on. Number 3. Ayers Rock. In the Northern Territory of Australia lies the single largest monolith rock in the world, Ayers Rock. At a staggering height of 346 meters and running about 2 miles in length and width, this sandstone rock formation towers over an otherwise completely flat terrain. Uluru's ancient mysteries begin with its geology. It was once believed to be a meteorite, but later geologists judged it a monolith, a single solid piece of 700 million year old arkose, a kind of sandstone. Uluru is likely 2/3 buried, with the invisible part jutting below the surface at an 80-degree angle. The beginning of human settlement in the Uluru region has not been determined, but archaeological findings to the east and west indicate a date more than 10,000 years ago. Believed to have been formed by the activities of ancestral beings in creation time, or dream time, the beautiful site includes many caves, water holes, and ancient rock paintings. According to the Anangu, traditional landowners of Uluru, the world was once a featureless place. None of the places we know existed until creator beings, in the form of people, plants, and animals, traveled widely across the land. Then, in a process of creation and destruction, they formed the landscape as we know it today. Anangu land is still inhabited by the spirits of dozens of these ancestral creator beings, which are referred to as Chukaricha or Waparicha. Now more widely known as Uluru, the Anangu name for the mysterious monolith, it seems to hold power over people. The traditional owners have known this for thousands of years and respect its spirituality. One of the reasons why they ask that tourists not climb it. Strange things happen when people visit Ayers Rock. It's sometimes reported that those who take rocks from the formation will be cursed and suffer misfortune. There have been many instances where people who remove such rocks attempted to mail them back to various agencies to remove the perceived curse. The dry, rugged outback of this part of Central Australia has thrown up many unsolved mysteries. British tourist Peter Falconio disappeared on a lonely stretch of highway just north of Alice Springs in July 2001. His body's never been found, despite one of the largest searches in Australian history. It was also close to Ayers Rock that Azaria Chamberlain disappeared in 1980, never to be seen again. Uluru remains sacred to several Aboriginal tribes in the region who still perform rituals in the caves and make new rock paintings. Number 4. Lake Vostok. Early research into Lake Vostok indicated that the body of water had a depth of at least 2,000 feet, far greater than any of the Great Lakes and half as deep as Asia's Lake Baikal, 5,000 feet, a length of 300 miles and a width of 50 miles. Contrary to what was initially believed, the lake received filtered light. Further investigations also detected the existence of geothermal sources which warmed the lake to an astonishing 50 degrees Fahrenheit, with hot spots of up to 65 degrees. Given these new discoveries regarding solar radiation and temperature, scientists suggested the possibility that the lake's encapsulated atmosphere purified itself through a complex interaction with water, and that the chances for vegetable life forms were very good. Research conducted by Russian scientist Ian Toskovoy, who mysteriously vanished near the Vostok station in March 2000, on geothermal upboiling, also hinted at an alternative means of purification and replenishment for the subterranean lake's atmosphere. However, the most intriguing news coming out of Antarctica had to do with the extremely powerful magnetic anomaly located in the northern end of the lake's coast, a discovery which would give rise to a number of conjectures and would be compared to the TMA-1, Tycho Magnetic Anomaly 1, in the movie 2001, A Space Odyssey. The electronic newspaper, Antarctic Sun, which soon became the main source of information on the Lake Vostok magnetic anomaly, stated that during the initial flight of the Office of Aerophysical Research aimed at conducting magnetic resonance imaging over the area, the magnetometer recorded an increase of 1,000 nanoteslas beyond the 60,000 nanoteslas which characterize the Vostok station. Scientists had expected to find magnetic anomalies in the range of 500 to 600 nanoteslas in areas where volcanic material could be located, but the ranges encountered were simply startling. This anomaly is so large that it cannot be the product of a daily change in the magnetic field, stated Michael Studinger, one of the researchers involved in the mapping endeavor. Australian geologist Harry Mason summarized the subject thus: "The magnetic anomaly's sheer size and intensity suggest the presence of a large ultra-base component under this section of Lake Vostok at the surface of the continental crust rock. In other words, on the old surface prior to the ice formation. Scientists think this may be due to the Earth's crust thinning, but it may also signify a lost city hidden below the lake. While there is more than one theory about where the final resting place of Plato's Atlantis is, Lake Vostok is a strong contender, with novelists and university professors alike allegedly claiming that tectonic shifts caused Atlantis to relocate to the South Pole. In 2012, a team successfully drilled through the ice to get to the lake and locate more than 3,500 species of life. No doubt soon Lake Vostok will reveal many answers about the history of Earth. The only question is if they will be released to the public or remain secret forever. Number 5. Oak Island Money Pit. The story of Oak Island, Nova Scotia is one of the most frustrating and intriguing mysteries of all time. Imagine being in Daniel McGinnis's shoes in 1795, walking through the trees of a wooded island rumored to hide buried pirate treasure. Suddenly, you come across a depression in the ground. It's roughly circular, and there's a tree standing above it with a branch that's been cut and appears to have been used as a pulley. Your imagination is fired. You run off to get your friends and digging equipment. You and 2 friends return the next day, shovels in hand, ready to claim your prize. Only 2 feet down, your shovel strikes rock. As you clear the dirt away, you find a neatly arranged layer of flagstone covering a circular area 13 feet in diameter. You pry the stones out, expecting treasure, but there's only more dirt. You begin again, digging down 8 more feet. Suddenly, you hit wood. You scrape away the dirt, only to find a platform of oak logs covering the pit. You pull out the logs and resume your digging. 10 more feet and you finally strike wood. As you clear the area, you find another level of oak logs. Now you know there's something valuable here. Why else would anyone go to so much trouble? Now, 20 feet below the surface, you must again. Another 10 feet. Another set of oak boards. Disappointed, you and your friends decide that you can't go any further alone. You leave but vow to return to retrieve your treasure. Now imagine that it's more than 200 years later. The pit has been explored to more than 150 feet. The treasure, if any, that was buried is still there, protected by an ingenious booby trap that floods the pit with seawater anytime someone gets close. Group after group after group have tried to solve the riddle. Neither brute force nor technology have been able to overcome the problems. 6 lives have been lost and millions of dollars spent trying to uncover the secrets of what's become known as the Money Pit. So, who built the Money Pit? Some theories suggest that these structures built on Oak Island may have been hundreds, perhaps even thousands of years old when they were discovered in 1795. They may have been built by Vikings visiting the New World, or by the native Micmac people who lived in the region before the Europeans arrived. Perhaps they were built by an advanced civilization that we know nothing about. Indeed, the flood tunnel trap built into the pit in some ways reminds one of the false doors and granite plugs found in Egyptian tombs to prevent grave robbing. What's in the Money Pit? In addition to the Ark of the Covenant and Holy Grail, some people believe that the Money Pit is littered with pirate treasure. Others think Marie Antoinette's lost crown jewels could lie deep within the Money Pit. Some say the Viking ship rests in the Money Pit area. According to the History Channel, the ship sank in the island's quicksand-like surface. However, despite it being nearly 225 years after its discovery still, no one knows what lies at the bottom, who built it, or why. Number 6. Coral Castle. This amazing castle may hold clues to long-lost powers. Coral Castle in Homestead, Florida, is one of the most amazing structures ever built. In terms of accomplishment, it's been compared to Stonehenge, ancient Greek temples, and even the Great Pyramids of Egypt. Incredibly, it was quarried, fashioned, transported, and constructed by one man, Edward Leeds Scalman, a 5-foot-tall, 100-pound Latvian immigrant. He used huge blocks of coral rock, some weighing as much as 30 tons, and somehow was able to move them and set them in place without assistance or the use of modern machinery. How did he do it? It's estimated that 1,000 tons of coral rock were used in construction of the walls and towers, and an additional 100 tons of it were carved into furniture and art objects. An obelisk he raised weighs 28 tons. The wall surrounding Coral Castle stands 8 feet tall and consists of large blocks, each weighing several tons. Large stone crescents are perched atop 20-foot-high walls. A 9-ton swinging gate that moves at the touch of a finger guards the eastern wall. The largest rock on the property weighs an estimated 35 tons. Some stones are twice the weight of the largest blocks in the Great Pyramid at Giza. Working alone, Leedskalnin labored for 20 years, from 1920 to 1940, to build the home he originally called Rock Gate Park in Florida City. In 1936, when a planned new subdivision of homes threatened his privacy, Leedskalnin moved his entire home 10 miles to Homestead, where he completed it, and where it still stands as a tourist attraction. How Leedskalnin managed this feat of engineering has remained a mystery all these years, because, incredibly, no one saw him do it. A secretive man, Leedskalnin often worked at night by lantern light. Even when he moved the entire structure to Homestead, neighbors saw the coral blocks being transported on a borrowed truck. But no one seems to know how Leedskalnin got them on or off the vehicle. Lots of weird stories have been told, and bizarre theories proposed to explain Coral Castle. And since no witness can dispute any of them, they're all worthy of consideration. In an article called The Coral Castle Mystery in Atlantis Rising, author Christopher Dunn asserts, "What if there's no such thing as gravity, and the natural forces we already know about are enough to explain the noted phenomena we've labeled as gravity? Perhaps Leedskalnin's means of working with the Earth's gravitational pull was nothing more complicated than devising a means by which the alignment of magnetic elements within his coral blocks was adjusted to face the streams of individual magnets he claims are issuing forth from the Earth, with a like-repelling pull." When he asked how he managed the feat, Leedskalnin replied only that he understood the laws of weight and leverage. He's quoted as saying, "I've discovered the secrets of the pyramids. I've found out how the Egyptians and the ancient builders in Peru, Yucatan, and Asia, with only primitive tools, raised and set in place blocks of stones weighing many tons." Had he merely found a very clever way to manipulate the great stones with levers and pulleys? Leedskalnin took his secrets with him to his grave in 1951. Secrets that are still waiting to be rediscovered. Number 7. Sedona. Just south of Flagstaff, Arizona, sits one of the most stunning areas of the country, Sedona. With red sandstone formations that carve out canyons, this place is particularly remarkable at sunrise and sunset. But Sedona isn't just known for red sandstone cliffs. It's also famous for its vortex and interdimensional portals, making it one of the most mysterious places on the planet. According to local folklore, star people were present in the area in the distant past. It's also said some tunnels lead from Sedona to another space-time dimension. Others believe that another ethereal city exists directly above Sedona, and the supernatural energies of that place draw strange powers to this portion of Arizona. Even seasoned researchers have been hard-pressed to explain the peculiar electromagnetic energies of the region. Author Tom Dongo writes, "To define Sedona in terms of principles of reality transcending those of any science, metaphysics, one could say that it's a town situated in a vast zone of powerful, shifting, mysterious, and sometimes volatile energies. To label these energies in only magnetic or electromagnetic terms is to restrict their greater meaning. These energies are truly cosmic and of many variations and applications. Vortexes can appear anywhere in the Sedona area. Somehow Sedona's iron-rich red rocks draw or generate these powers. It's said that these energies will soon expand and become one, then join with other energies and expand across the face of the earth. It was in 1992 that Bob Bradshaw Jr. and his wife Linda, along with several of her sons, began to catalog unusual activity on their property in Sedona. It started slowly with sightings of unusual lights in the clear desert sky and escalated into tales of Bigfoot, UFOs, extraterrestrial beings, dinosaurs, and strange creatures. The experiences she reported, along with other witnesses, border on the weird side. Linda firmly believed that the ranch was home to what she referred to as a light portal. She inferred that the abnormal and strange activity was occurring due to an interdimensional window to which creatures benign and benevolent could freely travel from one dimension to another. Rather suspiciously, on September 22, 2000, in a USDA Forest Service release, Bill Kusner, spokesperson for Keep Sedona Beautiful, alluded to the government's interest in the property. After years of property tax hikes and the government's pressing interest in the property, the ranch became another parcel of federal land, acquired by the U.S. Forest Service. In May of 2003, the Bradshaw had no choice but to vacate the property. Researchers were quick to dismiss Kusner's words and insinuated that the ranch was purchased in order to conceal the powerful interdimensional portal alleged to exist on the property. Others speculate that it was a tactical maneuver to hide a secret base, or even an extraterrestrial cover-up. Researchers believe there are entrances to these bases at a large cement plant in Jerome, beneath Bradshaw Ranch, and in various canyon areas around Sedona. For now, at least, Sedona, with its unsolved secrets, will continue to be shrouded in mystery. Number 8. Bermuda Island. On maps dating as far back as the 1700s, Bermuda Island was shown off the Yucatan Peninsula's coast, at a greater distance than any other island claimed by Mexico. The island, with an area of 80 square kilometers, was a common fixture on maps drawn by Spanish explorers. Its location sometimes varied slightly. Its name occasionally appeared as Vermeja, but its existence seemed certain enough. Its mapped appearance can be seen on the 1921 edition of the Mexican Republic Geographic Atlas. The last government-printed school book showing Isla Bermeja was released in 1946. After that, interest in the island disappeared, it seems, along with the island. So, what happened to it? A 2009 National Autonomous University of Mexico study concluded the island doesn't exist, at least not where it's supposed to. The search team, using underwater sensing devices and aerial reconnaissance assets, couldn't find the island anywhere in the area in which maps indicated it should be. So why does this matter? Well, turns out the island is worth trillions of dollars. The island was ideally situated for Mexico to extend its claim on offshore oil and stop the United States' encroachment on Mexico's territory. If Bermuda Island existed, that would push Mexico's territorial waters out further, giving the country more of the western donut hole, a part of the Gulf believed to contain great oil reserves. Perplexed by the disappearance of the island, the Mexican government sent their own missions to find it. A Navy ship, the Unjuku, sailed to the latitude indicated on the maps to confirm the existence of the island. But arriving on the scene, nothing was found, and the sonars did not detect any sign of the rock formation. In addition to the sea expeditions, there have been attempts to locate the island by air and satellite. One notable attempt to locate the island by air was made by the Mexican television network Televisa, which created a show about Isla Bermeja. They considered the island to be a mystery along the lines of the Bermuda Triangle. Indeed, others have noted the existence of ley lines crossing the path of the island or mysterious vortexes nearby that may cause the island to pop in and out of existence. If the island once existed and indeed is now gone. There are several explanations afoot to explain the island's disappearance. One is that Bermuda was sunk by a seaquake or tectonic shift in the ocean floor. Others speculate global warming has a hand in the island's disappearance. Mexican senators, both left and right of the political divide, implied that the island has been deliberately sunk. A force of nature able to sink an island does not take place without anyone noticing, and much less so when it's sitting in an area with more than 22 billion barrels of oil reserves. It's interesting to note that sometime during the 1970s, satellite images from space began to show the island. Since then, it's never been seen since. Unlike other islands that vanished, research vessels found nothing at its location. No rock remains, no ruined stones, nothing at all. Only the bottom of the sea. Until new evidence comes to light, the mystery of Bermuda Island seems likely to remain for a long time. Number 9. Lake Anjikuni. Anjikuni Lake can be found deep in the Kivalliq region of rural Nunavut in Canada. The inhabitants belong to an indigenous tribe of Inuit, a kind of semi-nomadic group composed of hunters and farmers. This place and its former inhabitants are at the center of Canada's biggest unsolved mystery. In November 1930, a man named Joe LaBelle walked into the village and found himself perplexed. LaBelle, a fur trader, had visited the village many times before over the years, but this time he found it unnaturally quiet, and for good reason. Not a single person was to be found in the village, nor any animals, pets or wild. He found fires still burning, food stocks intact, and the villagers' belongings in place. As he continued his search, it became clear that the people of Lake Anjikuni had vanished. Stranger still, even the graves were empty. LaBelle went looking for evidence of their sudden departure, but he could find no footsteps or prints in the snow. A local trapper, Armand Laurent, and his sons reported to Canadian Mounties that they had seen a huge cylindrical object flying in the sky moving towards Anjikuni Lake. He said the object was airborne and was capable of changing shape. The first press accounts of the ordeal appeared in the newspaper La Passe, Manitoba, where reporter Emmett Kelleher first published a story on the disappearance in November 1930. Shortly thereafter, another newspaper, the Danville Bee of Quebec, published the story as well. The report that propelled the case into the national spotlight was the article published in the Halifax Herald that named the abandoned location the Village of the Dead in its headline. From there, the story circulated to countless newspapers, crossing the continent before eventually fading from common consciousness. What really happened? If they'd planned to move to a different area, they would never have left their dogs behind. There was no reason for the Inuits to leave Anjikuni. Resources of that area had not decreased. The tribe could survive 1,000 more years using those resources. Plus, as already mentioned, no footprints were found. So this theory can be ruled out. There have been all sorts of claims, including aliens, ghosts, and even Wendigos. In the latter half of the 20th century, numerous ufologists speculated on this case and written in this case. Strangely, within a year, the village was razed for reasons unexplained by the government. The village was no longer listed on government maps. A few commercial maps up to the mid-1950s did continue to list the village, but with a parenthetical note that the village was abandoned. No current maps list the area. Whatever their fates may have been, the fact remains that sometime during November of 1930, approximately 30 people, who just a day before were working and playing, apparently abandoned their homes and vanished from the face of the earth. This is one mystery, much like the Roanoke colony, that will most likely never be solved. The incapability to understand the real story behind some of these anomalies has drawn in many skilled investigators, researchers, archaeologists, geologists, and many more. They're just so infused by intrigue that there's no explaining it. While it can certainly be frustrating to be left without answers, there's something exciting in the mystery of not knowing. Perhaps one day some of the mysteries surrounding these worldwide locations will be revealed. But for now, at least, many of these places will remain a complete mystery.